This is the wireless 4-person set I've been looking for. Hey, here with my thoughts on Saramonic's Blink500 ProX B8. Full disclosure, Saramonic was kind enough to send this wireless lavalier microphone set over to me at my request. They don't get to see the review before it comes out or have any say-so whatsoever. The review is always the review inside the box. You get 4 transmitters, 1 receiver, 4 lav mics, 4 windscreens, 1 charging case, 1 USB-C to USB-A cable, 1 dual TRRS to 4 XLR male, 1 TRRS to dual TRRS, 1 TRRS to dual TRRS, and 1 carrying bag. At the time of this recording, the Blink500 ProX B8 retails for $449 US. On the build front, the transmitters and receiver are built from ABS plastic. Each transmitter weighs just 30.5 grams, and the receiver has an OLED display. When it comes to the specs and the features, the 4 transmitters feature a 6mm built-in omni condenser mic and a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Each transmitter has 8 gigs of onboard storage. That's 14 hours of 24-bit 48 kHz lossless backup recording. They have easy on and off recording, which allows each transmitter to double as a standalone recorder, and each of the transmitters features active noise cancellation to eliminate background noise. The camera mount receiver has an OLED display and an 11-hour battery life. It includes a 3.5mm headphone output and 2 TRRS outputs with the aforementioned 3 cables for versatile use. The Blink500 ProX B8 receiver features output cables for TRRS devices in mono mode, mixing all 4 mics. Stereo mode lets you mix 2 mics to left and right channels, offering great flexibility for various recording needs. And each of the transmitters have dust and water resistance. Later in this video, I'll process this audio so you can hear what it sounds like with some post-production. But for the entirety of this video, you're hearing all the audio from one of the transmitters. And I'm using the lav mic I've got clipped to my collar. The first test I wanted to throw at this unit is the active noise cancellation, just so you can hear how it works. So now I'll turn that little light green by hitting active noise cancellation. Now I've turned it back off and you can hear the difference. The next test was the distance test. This was my favorite distance test I've ever done with a wireless set. Check this little snippet out. All right, roughly, still can hear me at almost 400 meters. And I didn't want to waste your time watching me hobble and waddle all that long ways, because it took me quite a bit to get that far out. But you can barely see me in the footage. And this was in rural Michigan, in a wide open area, so your results may vary. This is what the Blink500 ProX B8 sounds like normally. And this is what the Blink500 ProX B8 sounds like with a little bit of post-processing done to it. This is the sound you can achieve, and heck, maybe you can achieve something even much, much better. But this is what I was able to come up with. So how do you like the sound? Now back to normal audio quality with no processing and the rest of the review. When it comes to the pros on this unit, I have a plethora of them. At the top of that list is the 4 XLR breakout cable, and just being able to separate these signals into 4 different ports. I think that is the most phenomenal feature I've seen. This was my first time noticing that, and that's why I reached out to Saramonic directly. Having rustling on somebody's lav won't ruin everybody else's audio. And that's a huge plus in my opinion. The next pro, onboard recording. So to get 8 gigs of onboard recording, it really kind of nullifies the concern of having dropouts when you're a far distance away. Personally, I don't want to be that far away from my camera. That's why I asked my brother-in-law to come with me to help me shoot that distance test, because I really don't want to walk away from an expensive camera. But you may have a reason why you're doing a talking head content creation video from a good ways away from your camera. And I understand that the signal will be important. However, having a backup recording just makes it all the better. Obviously, piggybacking on that is each transmitter being its own standalone recorder as well. So you could have a project going in one area and you could have somebody recording something else in another area. Another pro is the battery life. Getting 11 hours from the devices is really useful. However, if you do use the onboard recording, it's going to cut the transmitter time down to 6.5 hours, which is still plenty enough for a day's shoot. Because if you work like I do, most of the time when you're doing low budget shoots or commercials, you're doing a lot of waiting and you're not really recording. Keep in mind that the recharging case adds another 11 hours to the charge. And even adding to that, the receiver itself has its own built-in USB-C charging port. Another pro is the protection for dust and water resistance. Another pro, the receiver is larger than the transmitters, and it has that large OLED screen, which is clear and easy to see. Another pro is the active noise cancellation. Now, you're not going to be able to use that on every single situation that you encounter, but it will be helpful for the majority of situations you'll run across. Another pro, as you could see from the distance test, you could hear me loud and clear from even further than what the device is rated at, but that is just my particular experience with it. Your results may vary, but the distance is plenty enough for any project that you're going to do. And of course, you're going to want to have a clear line of sight. On the cons front, both of my cons surround the clip for the lavalier. On some lav mics, you'll get a clip that has a little indentation, and it allows you to make that broadcast loop on the lavalier wire, so then you don't get so much noise and rustling. And then also with the clip, I would have loved it if you could rotate the clip once it's pinned on. When it comes to notes about the unit, just keep in mind, these are not UHF sets. UHF sets are going to be those very expensive wireless sets. Now you're going to spend a pretty penny trying to get a UHF set. They're very costly and they're used for high dollar productions. I do micro budget films, commercials, and general content creation, so devices like this are perfect for my use case because I'm not trying to break the bank and they're going to work well enough for what I'm using it for. And the pushback is always going to be 32-bit float. But to put it in perspective, with a max SPL of 120 dB, I'm pretty sure you're going to be fine for spoken word content as long as you set your gain correctly. And even though I can hear somebody's keyboard typing away, at 24-bit, you have 144 dB of dynamic range. So those are my notes for the unit. However, overall, I love this unit. I was looking for a 4-person set to use for my content creation, the onboard recording, that 4-person breakout cable with everybody on their own channel. That is a home run. This is exactly what I was looking for, and I think it's going to serve my purposes well for quite a while. So thanks again to Saramonic for sending this over to me. And as always, thank you.